How's it going, everyone?
What's up, Nick? How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well.
Awesome. Kick us off, man.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen real quick. So you guys, I'll actually turn off my camera so it's a little bit bigger. All right, so what we will do, so we're running trivia today. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. So we'll be doing 2 different rounds of trivia, one before this session and then one before the next. Each round will consist of 3 questions, kind of tied into that topic of the workshop that's about to happen. We'll be using a platform called CrowdPer that you can see on your screen right now. So there's 2 ways to join the trivia. You can either join, pick up your cell phone, scan that QR code in the bottom left of your screen, or you can open a new web browser and go to crowd.live and then enter the code NextUp. So once you get that, it'll have you enter your first and last name, and it'll take you into a waiting room. So each round, I will go ahead and read the questions. After I finish reading the questions, the answers will pop up. Cool thing about this, the quicker you answer the question correctly, the faster and more points you get. So cool thing about that, correct answers are great, but correct fast answers are even better. Cool thing about this as well, the first, second, and third place of each round will win a soccer.com gift card, as well as the overall winner as well, which we have a screen that'll show the leaderboards and everything like that. So we'll give it a couple more seconds here, and then we'll dive right into that trivia. All right, so everyone should start to see a countdown coming onto your screen right now, and we will dive right into that first question in 3 seconds. All right, so first question. This next session, titled Be a Captain on and off the Field, takes a dive into which of the following topics? A, communication best practices. B, team building. 3, leadership and development. Or D, all of the above. And the answer for that one is D, all of the above. On to question 2. Tying into that team captain theme, which U.S. women's national team player captained her team to victory during the 2015 World Cup? Is it A, Becky Sauerbrunn, B, Alex Morgan, C, Megan Rapinoe, or D, Carly Lloyd? Again, quick answers, quick and correct answers, more points you get. All right, answer for that one is D, Carly Lloyd. All right, and on to the last and final question of round 1. Which player has made the most World Cup Finals appearances as his team captain? Is it A, Diego Maradona, B, Johan Cruyff, C, Cafu, or D, Franz Beckenbauer? All right, and the answer for that one is A, Diego Maradona. Let's kind of pull up the leaderboards real quick. All right, Travis, you are in first, followed by Jack, and then Bev. So we'll be contacting you after this to get you your gift cards and everything squared away. I'm going to turn it back to Rowan, and he's going to take it over and get you into this next session.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you, Nick. Really appreciate it. Thank you for our co-organizers from soccer.com. So now we're going to get started, everybody, with the second session on being a team captain on and off the field, moderated by United Soccer Coaches CEO, Lynn Berling-Manuel. Take it away, Lynn.
I have failed my first technology test. Welcome, everybody. I was the one on mute with the camera off. I am Lynn Berling-Manuel from United Soccer Coaches. I want to thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. Team captain, what we're going to delve into most this afternoon is leadership. Our leaders made, our leaders born. That's a question that 1,000 books have been written on, but I'm joined today by 3 folks who are key leaders in the soccer world. They each are involved in a very different capacity in a different club, but together I think we're going to try and, I won't call it a deep dive in 30 minutes, but I will call it an opportunity to really hear how leaders have evolved and what they see as important. So I'm going to quickly introduce them, and then I'm going to ask them to give the quick 2-minute origin story of how they got to this place, where it was their journey. We're joined by Alan Finch, who was the director of business for Lonestar Soccer Club in Dallas, Chris Brown, who was the executive director of Phoenix Rising FC in Arizona, and Mauricio Lozada, who is the staff coach for the Colorado Rapids Youth Club. So I think I'm going to throw it to Alan first. Give us your 2-minute origin story.
I can do it in 1 minute. So I grew up outside of Dallas.
That's why I gave it to you first, by the way. Go.
That's okay. So I grew up outside of Dallas and played my club soccer in Dallas. Upon graduating from high school, I went down to the university, to Southwestern University in Georgetown, Texas, just north of Austin. Played college soccer there, graduated, moved to Oaxaca, Mexico for a year, came back up. Lived in Austin, worked the only job that I've ever had that hasn't been in sport. Realized that I love the people that I worked with. I didn't like the medium of that job, so I started to manage an indoor soccer facility. Then my college coach called me and said, "Do you want to be a college coach?" I said, "I've never coached before." He said, "Don't worry, you'll be fine." So I then was an assistant college coach on the men's and women's side at Southwestern. Gave up the indoor job, picked up some club soccer along the way. Gave up the college coaching job and did club full stop. And then, and I think that gets us to today, where I'm still in Austin, Texas at Lonestar Soccer.
And I think I said wrong. I said Dallas, and I am so sorry.
That's okay. Please don't doubt Austin, right? That's what everyone.
I'm so sorry. And I believe your club is about 6,000 players. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. So that's one person's journey to come to this stage. Chris, how about your origin story? How'd you get to this stage with Phoenix FC Rising?
Sure. Just a quick thank you to League Apps for having all of us. It's incredibly progressive, these sessions. I grew up in London, England, and I was incredibly fortunate to go to a college called Loughborough University. Great environment, great people. It was a melting pot for sports science. Which it still is, but all sorts of creative innovations. And I think the significant thing at that point was the people that were graduating from Loughborough were the first group of sports scientists, sports psychologists that were not ex-players that were getting hired. So some of my graduating classes were Tony Strudwick, who's currently with Wales, Dave Redding, who just left the post with England as the performance director, Darren Robinson, who's at Millfield School, Sam Nellins, who's with the MLS Next Academy at PDA. So just a bunch of talented people leaving that have all gone into different scopes. At that time, then I got recruited to come out to New Jersey and run a couple of businesses in New Jersey. I had some ownership with UK Elite Soccer, which is now Still Sports. That was a great moment for me, just because it really taught me the merits of teamship and a relentless work ethic from the entire group to work really hard together for a common goal, which was great. And for the last 20 years, I've been in Arizona. I'm the executive director for Phoenix Rising. So really, I oversee anything youth with regards to our organization here. And then I'm really excited because as a personal interest, I'm developing a training platform with Tony Strudwick and Sam Nellins called Player Toolbox, which is an individual development program with the opportunity for players to go in and create their own individual development plans and develop in that way. So appreciate you having me.
Thank you, Chris. Before I jump to you, Mauricio, I want to go back to Alan for just 1 minute, because I think one thing you did not include in your quick background journey was that you also kind of went in an academic direction, and at some point, I believe, have got a master's degree, and it was in specifically leadership, was it not?
It was a master's of sports leadership from Northeastern up in Boston back in 2013.
So a little bit, and I just wanted to flesh it out, because part of this is the idea that leaders come through every channel possible, and there is no one size fits all. Mauricio, we're throwing you sort of to the lions here. Mauricio is a younger staff coach, but he was part of the United Soccer Coaches 30 Under 30 program last year, or this year actually. And we had over 500 coaches under 30 years old apply for that program. 15 men and 15 women were selected from that group, and Mauricio is one of those. So he's taking his own path up through the leadership. And Mauricio, tell us a little bit about your origin story.
I grew up in Northfield, Minnesota, and I started coaching in high school, rec program, just kind of helping out. And I didn't really take coaching seriously until right after college. I was given the opportunity, just like Alan, to help out with the college team. I had no idea what I was doing, but that's the best way to learn. Hey, get in there, do it, and figure it out. So at that point, I figured I want coaching to be part of my professional career. After that, I took over a recreational program back in Minnesota for 2.5 years. So same thing, it helped me kind of shape who I am now. There wasn't a manual on how to do the job. It was go do it. So it made me having to reach out to colleagues and asking very basic questions of, how do you set up a league schedule and those kind of things. And then I moved to Colorado last year to run a rec program. That didn't work out, but I ended up with the Rapids, and I'm very fortunate to be coaching at a pretty good level at a pretty good club. I was given the opportunity to be part of the 30 Under 30 program, and a big part of that is just giving us opportunities to shape our leadership style. So I'm very fortunate that I'm part of this call, and I look forward to just continue to learn. I want to believe that I'm still shaping there on that leadership piece, but again, at the very young age, I've been very fortunate to just be put in positions that have allowed me to make a difference, and that's, at the end of the day, that's what I'm looking for.
Thank you, Mauricio. I think the reason for going back through these origin stories is not just to fill time. It is because truly everybody who considers themselves a leader, everybody who serves as a leader, probably learns about being a leader every day, their entire career. And it begins at the beginning, that we all are learning all the time. And I'm going to just throw it, and my next question is, I recently had somebody point out on my own staff that one of our colleagues had the leadership superpower of kindness. And that made me pause and think. But what it was is he makes everyone feel heard and cared about. And if you were I'm going to ask each of you this, if you were going to say, what was your leadership superpower, what would you say? And Alan, and why? Alan, how about you?
So that's an interesting question that I try to figure out. I don't think that I can figure out, I can pick what my superpower is. It's just like, I can't say that my best physical attribute is my beard. Like, that's for someone else to figure out, or for someone else to not figure out. But in checking in with my staff about why they think I'm a leader, why they look at me as a leader, I asked two staff this question, and one of them shot the answer off like that and said, personal connection. Finch has the ability to connect with people. And I asked another one who said, I don't know it. I don't know what their superpower is. And then as we worked through it, we discussed more about the ability to meet every individual staff member and member of the club on the level where they are. So my superpower would be personal connection, because when you do that, and it's not always a feel-good connection. Sometimes those connections can be contentious. And when you have 6,000 members and 80 staff, sometimes those connections can be a little difficult, but they get you to an end, which is important. I think it's important through personal connection to have common ground as to where you're starting. And it assists. The last piece is, you can't lead everyone with a broad brush. You cannot lead every individual with the same style. You have to figure out how people hear you, how people understand you, to ensure that you can get the best out of every individual, whether it be a staff member or a member of the club.
Great. Okay, Mauricio, that's a hard act to follow. What would you say your leadership superpower is?
I want to believe optimism. I look for the very best out of every situation, out of every interaction, and I think that it takes hard work, it takes determination to accomplish your own personal professional goals, but there has to be that little optimism in there to just kind of, it feels me to continue to work towards it. So that's I want to believe that that's what it is right now.
It's a good one in the sense is optimism, like a lot of these things, tends to be contagious, frankly, and it's a good contagion to pass along. How about you, Chris? What would you say your leadership superpower is?
I think Alan makes a really good point in terms of he asked others what they think of him or his traits, because leadership is so multifaceted. There's so many elements of it that comprises a good leader, and I think that it also depends on the situation in terms of where you're leading. So I'm in a position where I lead a large number of kids in our club. We have about 8,000 kids in our club. So for me specifically, I think my superpower would be like what I call learning agility. It is taking all the steps that I've learned through my career and all those experiences and looking at what is the next project. And that project could be obtaining a facility or creating a foundation event or connecting with staff members. So, each one of them, I feel that learning agility of me leaning on my experiences that I've had through my career has been incredibly helpful. As a good example, we have a really robust foundation that we give back to the community. We've raised about $1.3 million in 8 years. And this past COVID year, it's been incredibly difficult to raise money. Mm-hmm. And obviously the shortfall of that is if we're shortfall on revenues, then there's potentially some kids who could miss out, which we just don't want to happen. So we have an event coming up this Thursday that's a fundraiser, but it's called the Sky for the Stars. It's the event where people come in and they participate. And obviously with numbers and social distancing, you have to be very careful. But what we've done is we've created actually a physical event and a virtual event so that people can attend by actually not being in the restaurant. Mm-hmm. So it was just, again, it's a great way that we pivoted an event, use that learning agility to see what the end goal was, which we need to raise some money. How do we kind of build those blocks, create a team to put it off? So it should be great.
Frank, that's a very powerful one, and I encourage our audience to think about their own superpower. That sounds kind of comic bookish on some level, but it is surprising what a valuable exercise it is of self-awareness and how you look at yourself as a leader and your strengths. So you've heard three folks, talk about how they see themselves. When my colleague talked about the superpower of kindness, that was not one that was put upon me. Let me just say that. That's not my best superpower. I forget about it sometimes and it comes back to haunt me. I like to think mine is resilience in some ways, but nonetheless, it's something that I think is a really good exercise for everybody. So inspiration. We have all probably read leadership books. We have all had people in our lives or people in the world who have inspired us as leaders. As you think about that individual who has been most inspirational to you, tell us who that is and why. Chris, how about if I start with you?
Sure. I don't think I actually have one in terms of a particular person that had such an influence on me and maybe molded me towards who I am. I have a deep respect for people and for human beings. And I think something in what I've tried to do in organizations that I've been privileged enough to lead is to hire amazing people. And I think sometimes people don't want to do that. Like they're challenged by hiring people that might be a threat to them. And that's not in my DNA. I'm not threatened by people with amazing excellence. And long ago, I realized it was rare that I was the smartest guy in the room. So I lean on other people and learn from other people in terms of what their best traits and their best habits were. And I feel that's been a great evolvement for me. And that might be in a coaching capacity, or that might be a business leader, or that might be a parent. Just watching how people parent and how they deal with a person, and me picking off some of those traits and skills.
It's a great answer. Mauricio, is there an individual either that you know or in the world that has really kind of been somebody who's inspired you?
My high school coach, at the time, he made it seem very easy to get 14 to 18-year-olds to come in, work hard, leave the egos, in the classroom or at home, and just work for each other, work for the team. And one thing that he was doing very well was letting us leave our mark on the program. And so that to me was something that I strive to do now as a coach, as an administrator, just, to Chris's point, surround myself with people that might think very different of me, and letting them just go and making sure that they help leave their mark and make a difference. So that I would say it's somebody that I learned a lot from. And just for me, the biggest part was just how easy he made it look. I'm pretty sure it wasn't easy. I'm pretty sure he struggled, but he made me believe in something that I could do someday.
Great. Alan, how about you? Your inspiration.
So I'm 44. I've been led by people. I've worked with leaders. I have led people for 25 years, and some of those have led in ways that I don't agree with, and I've learned a lot from that, watching people do things that I wouldn't do myself. And I think that's as important as learning from people who do things that I want to emulate. And but the individual that I do that in kind of an echo of Mauricio is that college coach who called me up and said, you need to be a college coach. And I said, but I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, don't worry, you'll be fine. And that's Don Gregory, who's now the retired coach from Southwestern University. And there are two things about that guy that are always, you couldn't skip them. His work rate and his ability to do the right thing, to try to do the right thing every time. And he never stopped. He never slowed down. He was going forward every day. Every day. He never lost the momentum. I actually spoke with him last night, and he's still grinding away, doing things in retirement. And that's something that sometimes I can go 1,000 miles an hour, and sometimes I can go 5 miles an hour, but I don't stomp on the brake, because you got to keep the momentum going forward. So work rate, and I know that I do things wrong sometimes, but I don't ever knowingly choose to do the wrong thing. I try to do the right thing, and it's never difficult to doing the right thing. You sleep really well at night doing the right thing. Sometimes it's not. There's a little bit of resistance, but doing the right thing is a great way to show people around you what you're made of from a core value and a character standpoint. So work rate,
Sure.
And try to do the right thing. Don Gregory.
Yep. Good lessons. One of the things about being a leader, whether in a small organization or a large one, is that you really need to take the time to step back and be strategic and think big thoughts and think about the future. And yet in that day-to-day slog of running an organization or leading an organization, that's really tough. It's really tough. It's funny how the hours in a day can get swallowed up by all that's right in front of you. And for any of you who might like to jump in on this, any thoughts about how you make sure you carve out that time to actually think about strategy in the future and those big leadership issues? Maybe, Chris, would you be willing to start with that?
Sure. I think this is a really important area. And personally for me, I think it's recognizing that if you don't take time to stop and reflect, you're actually doing your organization a disservice. The way that you chart the pathway for for the whole facet of across the organization is really important. So for me personally, I'm a kind of an early riser, and whatever I'm doing that morning, I will take a period of time to sit and reflect and look at where we're at or look at where I'm at, and set some objectives for the day or for the week, and just keep revisiting that through that period of time. So, always understanding of what the long-term vision is, of where we're trying to get to. But, in a sense, you have to be selfish with that time, from the perspective of it would be, in my opinion, it would be a mistake not to create that time. So be selfish with that time, create that time to reflect, plan, and then follow through on all those deliverables that you set yourself.
Mm-hmm. Alan, Mauricio?
Yeah, I will add to Chris that I actually have a calendar alert. So it forces me to
planning. Brilliant.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I know that I'm not going to do it. That's a skill that you learn over time, and for me, just using that calendar alert to do self-reflection on how the session went for that day, or I have a couple of goals that I want to accomplish this year, and do we need to change what I'm doing to obtain those? So that has helped me, and I think it might be with the age more than anything that I just rely on my phone to, hey, the next 30 minutes, man, don't worry about anything else, just worry about this, because I got to where I'm at right now because of that, and I know that if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be part of this conversation today. So
that's actually a really good tip for all of us. Alan, how about you?
Yeah, Chris and Mauricio nailed it about carving out time, set aside to say, like, this is, I'm gonna reflect here and be intentional about that. In this COVID-19 world that we live in, and all the Zoom meetings and all the Google Hangouts, everything gets packed together, and so I process that high level thinking of leadership through little nibbles. After a meeting ends at 11:55 and I've got something at 5 minutes between there, reflect on the 55 minutes that I just spent with a board member or one of my staff members or one of our parents, and take that 5 minutes to just reflect quickly on, was my message received the way that I needed it to be received? And if not, make a note, circle back with that person to ensure that we're all square. On the flip side of it, Austin, Texas is a great town. There's one downfall. You're getting from A to B very, very slowly. There's traffic everywhere. And so I spend a lot of time moving between A and B. And this is like the opposite of what Mauricio was talking about. Sometimes I turn everything off. If I know that I'm going to be stuck in my car for an hour, I turn everything off and I try to eat the elephant in one bite and think about large chunk organizational, like top down. How has Alan Fincher dealt with his board members who are extremely supportive? I've got a great board, but I look up from a leadership standpoint. How have I supported them? And then I look laterally to the two people that I work with closely, Brian and Tommy, and think about how I'm supporting them. And then I look at the people that I'm supposed to lead. And I always try to do that inside out, top down, big, just an overhaul of how I've done that in those times where I can turn everything off and dedicate a large chunk of time to it.
Those all three are really great suggestions, all different and all the different ways of doing it. I actually really appreciate all of those good suggestions. I'm taking them back with me even as we speak. We only have a few minutes left, and we've taken a topic that thousands of writers have written volumes about and millions of people have worked hard at. And with that, I'm going to ask you to distill it down to one thing. As you have gone through your career, long or short or in between, what's that one leadership tip that you'd like to share before we walk away, that our audience, that's an important one for you? Mauricio, you want to start this time?
Yeah. You have to believe in what you're selling. If you don't know where you're going, if you don't know how you're going to get there, it doesn't matter, man. You have to know that it's gonna take time, and you're willing to put in the work for it. So that when I was younger, I would just take the videos from YouTube, and I would take what I saw in a session, and it wouldn't work because I didn't even believe in it myself. So I think that is one thing that I'm getting better at. Just really put in the time, put in the effort to know what it is why it is that I'm doing it, and how I can implement it to be successful.
Well, it's a great tip. It's a great reminder for those who know it, and great first-time information for those who don't. Chris, how about you? Big tip? Distill the entire leadership field.
Sure. I actually think that in our coaching organization space, we're in the business of people. So I think a leadership tip I would give to people is to really try and dial down like what motivates people, like what's important to people. So, we have employees and coaches, and some of them are paid and some of them are not paid. So, for me, it's like once you get past through the compensation part, or maybe there's no compensation, it's like what brings people value, what brings them self-worth, what brings them joy. And within that, I also try and strive here at Phoenix Rising to provide like a no blame culture. So it's like whatever goes down, we're in this together. That's that teamship thing that stands out. So my leadership tip would be to really invest in people, and just to try and seek what motivates them. And Alan mentioned this in the second segment, which is just try and connect with those people on their level, and really get a good understanding of them.
I'd like to reemphasize for a moment that notion of the no blame culture. That's a very powerful thing, and it's actually more rare than I wish it was, because I think it's very easy for folks to say when something goes wrong, whose fault is it? Now, you do need to know how to fix it. You need to know how to resolve it, but blame doesn't get you very far. Alan, how about you? Your tip, entire leadership world in your hands right now.
I'll box it up and then I'll sell it. Mauricio nailed it when he said it's my tip is to gain as much institutional knowledge as you can, and you can't do that without time and calories. And there's nothing quick to that tip. If I want to lead the staff members at Lonestar Soccer Club, I need to be able to connect with them on the task that is in front of them. So at Lonestar, I'm a jack of all trade, master of none. I've been working with the club since it started. I've done everything. I've run the rec level, the junior academy, boys and girls, top level boys, bottom level boys, top level girls, bottom level girls. I've ensured that there was toilet paper in the porta potties at facilities. I know I've done it all, and that allows me to then connect with people who are now doing those tasks that we have passed the baton to. And one more piece of it is I was a pretty good soccer coach. I was a pretty good youth coach, and I thought I knew it all. In fact, I knew it all. And then 11 years ago, I met my daughter, and becoming a parent gave me even more institutional knowledge as to a big member base that I connect with parents now so much better because I am a parent, and that only comes with just time and calories. So gaining as much institutional knowledge of whatever the institution is that you're going to be a part of, you just got to roll your sleeves up and be patient and gather as much information as possible.
Great answer. At United Soccer Coaches, we talk about lifelong learning being the trait of every great coach. I think it's the trait of every great leader as well. There's just so much to know. You can never know enough. I believe, according to my parents, who are no longer with us, I was, or at least I felt I was omnipotent at 13. I knew everything at 13, and they were oh so stupid. And it's just amazing how much less you know as you get older. And the reality is that leadership is something you learn about every day. Each of us in this call have done it for a long time, some less, some more. But the reality is we learn every day, and we learn from the people around us. So with that, I'd like to thank our panelists today, Alan and Mauricio and Chris. I'd like to thank our audience. Thank you so much for your time. And I think we are about to just wrap up, and there's going to be a video, I understand, as well. Here it comes. Hi, Roy, back to you, sir.
Thunder, Lynn, that's the stuff that I'm supposed to do up here.
No, I wasn't. I was timing it.
Much. I really appreciate everybody joining. A big thing for leadership with us at League Apps, our leaders put up our values on the walls. We have a set of values. Everybody knows them, and we can look at them for everything. Whenever anybody has a question, whether you do something right or wrong, just look at the values, and they should tell you where to go. So,
can you give me, actually, before we let you go, before you go on to the next thing, since you gave us that one more minute or so, tell us a couple of those values.
So it kind of spells out sports dog. So it's sportsmanship, passion, results, team, that kind of grit, difference maker. My favorite one is results. It's kind of the one is, what's the end score, right? And I'm a big person about winning. So, whenever you kind of are trying to figure out what to do right or wrong, it's always kind of look at the values and they can kind of help you. So set a corporate values, a team values, organization values, and it's easy for everybody.
You've given us a perfect close. One more leadership tip. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Cool. So we have another session coming up here that I'm pretty excited about because it's really more about technology and something that we obviously think a lot about here at League Apps. So our first speaker for these kind of short talks around technology is Yael Everbush, former U.S. Women's National Teams player and the founder of Techni Football, something that is kind of been super helpful as of late. So I'm going to ask Yael to come up here and we're going to get going. Cool. Thank you, Yael. Really appreciate that. And everybody, if you're more interested in Techni Football, you can obviously kind of look them up. We're going to head to another short break. Before we do so, the next panel that's coming up is the Starting 11 Tips for Hiring and Operational Success. So how to kind of hire your own team. It's going to start in a few minutes. Don't be late. And we're going to also be starting that session with another round of trivia to let you guys win some more prizes. So thank you again for joining the session. Hope you guys learned something. And again, my name is Rohit. Let me know if I can be helpful in any way. Thanks, guys.